Welcome to a journey into the deepest recesses of human despair, to places meticulously engineered to extinguish the very essence of hope. These are not mere holding cells, nor simple houses of correction. They are bastions of retribution, monuments to societal fear and anger. Here, behind impenetrable walls and beneath the gaze of unblinking towers, the concept of a future, of redemption, withers and turns to dust. We venture into realms where every sunrise brings not promise but a stark reminder of confinement, where the human spirit is subjected to its most arduous test, a slow, relentless erosion, an existence teetering on the precipice of utter desolation, where light itself seems a forgotten memory. Consider these structures scattered across our planet as unique, albeit terrifying, ecosystems. They are environments so extreme, so deliberately devoid of solace, that they are designed to fracture even the most resilient individuals, to dismantle the psyche of those deemed the toughest, the most hardened criminals. Within these formidable fortresses, the very air seems thick with an unspoken weight, a palpable sense of lives suspended, of identities forcibly remolded or broken entirely. The architects of these places understand the human need for connection, for stimulus, and they have systematically, methodically, stripped it all away, leaving behind a chilling vacuum where only the harshest realities exist, a testament to humanity's capacity for calculated severity. Today, our exploration takes us beyond the hastily locked doors, past the stern-faced guards, into the chilling heart of the world's 10 most brutal detention facilities. These are names whispered in hushed tones, synonymous with suffering and dread, places where the line between stringent punishment and outright torture becomes terrifyingly blurred. We will navigate corridors where sunlight seldom penetrates and silence is broken only by echoes of despair or the clang of steel on steel, a constant, metallic reminder of captivity. Each institution, a unique study in the extremes of human confinement, reveals a different facet of what it means to be utterly deprived of freedom, subjected to regimes that test the very limits of endurance and push individuals into the darkest corners of their own minds. For in these carefully constructed infernos, survival is a fragile concept, never guaranteed. It is a daily battle waged not just against the system, but against oneself, against the creeping tendrils of madness, the gnawing hunger for a life lost. Here the currency is not time served, but moments endured, breaths taken in an atmosphere designed to suffocate the soul. We will bear witness to the stark realities faced by those within, where the primary objective shifts from rehabilitation to mere existence, a grim testament to the ultimate price of transgression, or sometimes, simply being on the wrong side of power in the most unforgiving places on earth. This is an unflinching look at the architecture of control and the enduring, often devastating impact on the human condition. Our journey into the abyss begins in the United States, amidst the stark beauty of the Colorado Rockies, a landscape of majestic peaks and sprawling wilderness. Yet nestled within this grandeur lies a facility of profound and chilling isolation, ADX Florence, the Administrative Maximum Facility, a name that barely hints at its nature. Known colloquially and with a grim accuracy as America's own Alcatraz of the Rockies, it represents the zenith of super-maximum security, a fortress designed not merely to contain, but to utterly remove its inhabitants from the world, from human contact, from themselves. This is not a prison in the conventional sense, it is a meticulously crafted void, a concrete tomb where the nation sends those it deems beyond redemption, a place from which stories of psychological torment emerge like chilling whispers. The roster of inmates at ADX Florence reads like a litany of modern infamy. Here, behind layers of reinforced concrete and unyielding steel, are housed individuals whose actions have scarred nations and horrified the world. Figures such as Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, the Boston Marathon bomber, whose heinous act brought terror to a city, now resides within these unyielding confines. Alongside him, or rather in an identical state of profound isolation, is Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, the once notorious Mexican drug lord, whose empire spread violence and addiction. These are the worst of the worst individuals for whom the state has decreed that even the memory of normal human interaction is a privilege to be denied, their presence a constant, silent testament to the facility's grim purpose. The daily reality for these men is an existence stripped to its barest, most brutal essentials. For 23 hours out of every 24, they are confined to solitary cells, compact, soundproof concrete boxes, meticulously designed to prevent any form of communication. Imagine a room, barely larger than a king-sized bed, furnished with a concrete slab for sleeping, a concrete desk, a concrete stool, and a combined toilet and sink made of stainless steel. Sunlight, if it enters at all, is a sliver through a narrow 4-inch wide window, angled to show only the sky, denying even a glimpse of the surrounding mountains. This is an environment of extreme sensory deprivation, where the silence itself can become a tormentor, amplifying the internal dialogues of a mind cut adrift, a deliberate, systematic starvation of the senses, day after unending day. Human contact, the very bedrock of our species' existence, is virtually non-existent. Interactions with guards are fleeting, perfunctory, often conducted through steel doors. There are no communal meals, no shared yard time, no opportunities for congregation or conversation. Even when an inmate is permitted their single hour outside the cell, it is often within another slightly larger cage, alone. This profound and enforced solitude is the core of ADX Florence's design philosophy to break the unbreakable by severing all ties to the human world, to create an island of one within a sea of concrete. Former prisoners, those few who have emerged from its depths, speak of it not with bravado, but with a haunted reverence for its efficacy in psychological warfare, a place where the mind becomes both prison and prisoner. The silence here is not golden, it is a crushing, palpable force designed to unravel the very fabric of a person's being. The chilling descriptor, a clean version of hell, offered by those who have endured its regime, speaks volumes about the unique horror of ADX Florence. It is not the squalor or overt brutality of older, more chaotic prisons that defines this place, but rather its sterile, almost surgical precision in dismantling the psyche. The cleanliness is part of its insidious nature. There are no distractions of filth, no tangible enemy like rampant disease or gang violence to focus on. Instead, the assault is subtle, internal, waged within the pristine confines of a concrete box. This hell is one of an ordered, calculated isolation, where every element is designed to reinforce the inmate's utter insignificance and powerlessness, a slow, methodical descent into a uniquely modern form of torment. The very architecture of ADX Florence is a masterclass in control and subjugation. From the moment an inmate arrives, often shackled and heavily guarded, they are processed through a series of sally ports and remote-controlled doors, each click and clang a reminder of their captive state. The cells are poured concrete, furniture immovable, designed to prevent self-harm or the creation of weapons. Even the light fixtures and sprinkler heads are tamper-proof. This is an environment where every detail, no matter how small, has been considered to ensure total security and to minimize any possibility of unsanctioned interaction, creating a hermetically sealed world where the authorities hold absolute dominion and the individual is reduced to a monitored, isolated unit. The long-term psychological effects of such profound and prolonged isolation are devastating. Studies and anecdotal evidence paint a grim picture of minds unraveling, of depression, anxiety, paranoia, and hallucinations becoming commonplace. The human brain, wired for social connection and sensory input, struggles to cope in such a barren landscape, often turning inward in destructive ways. The very notion of self can begin to erode when there are no reflections, no interactions to affirm one's existence. This is the unspoken sentence served alongside the official one, a sentence of mental attrition, where the spirit is systematically starved, and hope becomes an alien concept, a distant memory from a life that feels entirely disconnected from the present. What then is the ultimate purpose of such a facility? Is it merely to contain those deemed too dangerous for any other environment? Is it a form of ultimate punishment, a living death sentence designed to inflict maximum suffering within legal bounds? Or is it perhaps a darker reflection of society's deepest fears, a place where we banish not just individuals, but the uncomfortable truths they represent? ADX. Florence stands as a stark monument to the limits of incarceration, a place where the stated goals of rehabilitation seem utterly absent, replaced by an unwavering focus on absolute control and the slow, inexorable breaking of the human will, a chilling testament to the science of solitude and its profound capacity to inflict a unique and lasting form of anguish. If the sterile isolation of ADX Florence represents one extreme of carceral severity, our next destination, deep within the Russian penal system, offers a different yet equally terrifying tableau. We journey to Federal Penitentiary IK6, more infamously known as Black Dolphin. This formidable prison, located near the Kazakhstan border, is a name that evokes a primal fear, a place where Russia confines its most hardened and notorious criminals. To suggest it makes ADX Florence look like a hotel is a chilling indictment, hinting at a regime where the very concept of human dignity is systematically crushed under an iron heel of unrelenting discipline and psychological dominance, a place where survival itself is a grim, daily struggle against overwhelming odds, and the bleak, frozen landscape seems to seep into the very soul of the institution. The inmates of Black Dolphin are not petty thieves or common criminals. They are individuals convicted of the most heinous acts imaginable: serial killers, cannibals, terrorists, men whose crimes have left indelible scars on society. Among them is the werewolf, Mikhail Popkov, a former policeman turned prolific serial murderer, responsible for dozens of brutal killings. These are men for whom life imprisonment means exactly that: an existence devoid of any prospect of release, a slow march towards death within the unforgiving walls of this specialized institution. The crimes they have committed are so monstrous that society has deemed them unfit to ever walk free, consigning them to a living purgatory where every day is a stark reminder of their horrific past and their hopeless future. The daily ritual for a Black Dolphin prisoner is a harrowing display of total subjugation. From the moment they leave their cells, they are subjected to conditions designed to physically and mentally break them. Inmates are famously transported bent at the waist, often blindfolded, with their hands cuffed behind their backs, forced into a stress position that is both demeaning and physically taxing. They shuffle, never walk, in permanent chains, their movements restricted, their bodies constantly reminded of their captive state. This is not mere transportation. It is a continuous performance of power, a deliberate act of humiliation designed to strip away any vestige of defiance, to reinforce the absolute authority of the guards and the utter powerlessness of the confined. The rules within Black Dolphin are draconian, enforced with unwavering severity. Inmates are forbidden to stand straight when outside their cells, always maintaining the stooped posture. Crucially, they are never to look guards directly in the eye, an act considered a direct challenge to authority, punishable by means severe and immediate. This constant enforced subservience is a powerful tool of psychological control, eroding self-respect and instilling a pervasive sense of fear. Every interaction, every movement is governed by a rigid code of conduct that leaves no room for individuality or dissent, transforming men into compliant shadow-like figures, navigating a world where the slightest infraction can bring swift and harsh retribution, a chilling ballet of control and obedience. The air itself seems to crackle with tension and the unspoken threat of violence, a constant pressure that grinds down even the most resilient spirits. The security measures at Black Dolphin are legendary, contributing to its fearsome reputation. Escape attempts from this fortress of despair? The official record states 0. This is not merely a testament to high walls and watchful guards. It is a reflection of the crushing psychological atmosphere, the profound hopelessness that permeates every inch of the facility. The inmates, many serving life sentences without parole, understand that Black Dolphin is designed to be their final destination. The very thought of escape is likely extinguished by the relentless daily grind, the constant surveillance, and the brutal consequences that would undoubtedly follow any such attempt. It is a place where hope for freedom is not just lost, but actively eradicated, leaving behind only the grim reality of perpetual confinement in a frozen, unforgiving land. The claim that the survival rate is just barely paints a harrowing picture of life within. Survival here transcends mere physical existence. It encompasses the preservation of sanity, of some fragment of human identity, in the face of overwhelming pressure. The conditions are harsh, the psychological toll immense. Reports from the rare few who have insight into such facilities speak of a pervasive bleakness, where the will to live can be eroded by the sheer monotony and brutality of the regime. This is not a place of rehabilitation. It is a place of slow decay, where the primary challenge is to endure, to wake each day, and face the same unyielding reality, a testament to the human capacity to cling to life, even when life itself offers nothing but suffering and despair. The psychological warfare waged against the inmates is relentless and multifaceted. Beyond the physical restraints and the demeaning postures, there is the constant awareness of being watched, controlled, and judged by a system that views them as less than human. The isolation, while perhaps different in form from ADX Florence, is no less profound, as meaningful human connection is systematically denied or perverted. The environment is engineered to crush any vestige of rebellion, any spark of defiance, instilling a deep-seated fear that becomes a constant companion. This is a battle for the mind, fought in the desolate landscape of the Russian penal system, where the objective is not just to contain the body, but to conquer the spirit, to ensure that those within are forever marked by their time in this abyss. Ultimately, Black Dolphin stands as one of the world's most potent symbols of state power and its capacity for absolute control over the individual. It is a place where society sends its nightmares, and in doing so, perhaps creates new ones. The chilling efficiency, the zero escape rate, the barely sustainable survival. These are not accidental features but the intended outcomes of a system designed for ultimate punishment and permanent removal. For those condemned to its confines, it represents an eternal condemnation, a life sentence served in one of the harshest, most unforgiving carceral environments on earth, a grim monument to the darkest capabilities of penal justice, where the shadows of the Ural Mountains seem to cast a permanent pall over any hope of redemption. Here, nestled within the sprawling urban expanse of New York City, lies an archipelago of incarceration, Rikers Island. It is not a remote fortress isolated by miles of barren wilderness, but rather a complex tethered to the very heart of a metropolis, a stark testament to a different kind of isolation. From the air, it might appear as just another piece of the urban jigsaw, but on the ground, a unique and brutal ecosystem thrives, governed by its own unwritten laws. The proximity to a world of freedom and opportunity only serves to sharpen the edges of confinement for those held within its grasp, a constant taunting reminder of what lies just beyond the water. The sheer density of human life packed within these confines is, in itself, a force of nature. Over 10,000 souls, a population comparable to a small town, are compressed into this island complex, each individual carrying their own story, their own desperation. This immense pressure, this human compression, inevitably generates friction, a volatile energy that permeates the very air. The corridors and cells pulse with a nervous tension, a sense for the unpredictable that keeps every inhabitant, guard and prisoner alike in a state of perpetual vigilance. Here, personal space is a forgotten luxury, and the constant presence of others becomes a relentless psychological burden. Daily existence within Rikers is often a precarious dance with danger. The brief mentions stabbings as daily events, a chillingly casual descriptor for acts of profound violence. These are not isolated incidents, but rather the brutal punctuation marks in an ongoing narrative of conflict and survival. Makeshift weapons, born of ingenuity and desperation, can transform mundane objects into tools of harm. The struggle for dominance, for resources, or simply to maintain a sliver of dignity can erupt with sudden, shocking ferocity. In this environment, alliances are fleeting, and trust is a currency rarely traded and even more rarely honored. It is a peculiar kind of maximum security that defines Rikers Island. While walls and bars certainly play their role, the true enforcer of control and paradoxically of chaos is the very atmosphere it cultivates. It is a security born not of impenetrable fortifications alone, but from the overwhelming, disorienting maelstrom of human interaction at its most raw and unfiltered. The sheer, unadulterated chaos, as the brief suggests, becomes a character in itself, a dominant species in this unnatural habitat. It is a system where the lines between order and anarchy are perpetually blurred, a chilling spectacle of humanity under extreme duress. Beyond the immediate human drama, there is another equally staggering dimension to Rikers Island, its extraordinary financial footprint. The cost of maintaining a single individual within these walls averages a remarkable $500,000 per year. This figure, almost beyond comprehension for many, speaks volumes about the intricate and perhaps unsustainable machinery required to operate such an institution in the heart of one of the world's most expensive cities. It begs the question of resource allocation, of societal priorities and the true price of justice, or indeed of its prolonged deferral or denial. This colossal expenditure funds not just the basics of food and shelter, but an extensive network of security personnel, bureaucratic oversight, and the constant repairs and maintenance necessitated by an aging infrastructure and a volatile population. It is a city within a city, with all the attendant costs, yet one dedicated solely to confinement. The very air seems thick with the weight of these numbers, a silent testament to the societal investment poured into this isolated world. One must ponder if such resources, deployed differently, might yield profoundly different outcomes for the individuals and the community at large, a complex equation with no simple answers. Yet, the true cost cannot be measured in dollars alone. For every financial transaction, for every budget line item, there is a corresponding human element, an unquantifiable toll on lives and futures. The individuals caught within this system, many awaiting trial and thus presumed innocent, find their lives suspended, their connections to the outside world strained or severed. Families bear the emotional and often financial burden, and communities feel the absence of their members. The ripple effects of Rikers extend far beyond its shores, touching countless lives in ways that balance sheets can never fully capture or articulate. Thus, Rikers Island earns its grim epithet, America's most expensive hellhole. It is a label that encapsulates both the brutal reality of life within its confines and the staggering economic burden it represents. This institution stands as a powerful and deeply unsettling symbol of the challenges facing modern correctional systems, particularly in densely populated urban environments. It is a place where the pursuit of security and justice collides head-on with the complexities of human behavior and the stark realities of economic constraints, a sobering reminder of the intricate weave of society's darker threads. We journey now to the heart of Africa, to Rwanda, a nation that has known profound suffering, and to a place that seems to concentrate that suffering within its walls, Gitarama Prison. Here the numbers themselves tell a story of almost unimaginable extremity. Designed to accommodate a mere 400 individuals, Gitarama strains groans under the weight of 7,000 souls. This is not merely overcrowding, it is a deluge of humanity, a relentless tide that has submerged every inch of available space, transforming a place of confinement into a crucible of desperation. The very air in Gitarama must be thick with the presence of so many, the scent of human existence amplified to an overwhelming degree. Sanitation systems, never intended for such a burden, would inevitably collapse, leading to conditions that defy polite description. Disease, in such an environment, would not be a mere risk, but a constant, palpable threat. stalking the packed corridors and cells like an invisible predator. The basic necessities of life, clean water, uncontaminated food, a place to rest unmolested, become precious commodities, fiercely contested in a silent daily battle for survival against the odds. The phrase stacked like firewood paints a horrifically vivid picture of the sleeping arrangements, or rather the desperate attempts to find respite from exhaustion. Men forced to sleep in shifts, contorting their bodies to fit into impossibly small spaces, the warmth of too many bodies offering no comfort, only a reminder of the suffocating proximity. Imagine the nights, filled with the sounds of 1,000 restless sleepers, the coughs, the murmurs, the quiet groans of discomfort, a symphony of collective misery played out in the oppressive darkness, where even dreams offer little escape from the relentless reality. For those within Gitarama, the concept of personal space, of a moment's solitude, is an alien one. Every waking moment, and indeed every sleeping one, is spent in the immediate, unavoidable presence of others. The psychological toll of such constant enforced intimacy, stripped of any positive human connection, must be immense. The lucky ones, as the brief chillingly notes, might claim 6 square feet of ground, a tiny territorial claim in a sea of humanity. This is not living, it is existing, teetering on the very precipice of endurance, where the boundary between life and its cessation is terrifyingly thin. The immense population of Gitarama is not an arbitrary assembly. It is inextricably linked to one of the darkest chapters of recent human history, the Rwandan genocide. Many of those held within its suffocating confines are or were suspects in those horrific events, their presence a stark reminder of the nation's struggle to find justice and reconciliation in the aftermath of unimaginable violence. The prison itself becomes a holding pen for the unresolved trauma of an entire country, its walls echoing with the unspoken accusations and the lingering shadows of past atrocities. Imagine the atmosphere within, where victims and perpetrators, or those accused of being perpetrators, are forced into close, unavoidable proximity. The air, already thick with physical discomfort, must also be charged with suspicion, fear, and perhaps even hatred. For those who carry the heavy burden of guilt, and for those who maintain their innocence against the tide of accusation, Gitarama offers no respite, no neutral ground. It is a place where the collective wounds of a nation are left to fester, unhealed, in the most squalid of conditions, a stark reflection of a justice system overwhelmed. The brief speaks of the lucky ones who secure a few square feet, and then, with chilling brevity, of the unlucky who don't wake up at all. In such extreme conditions, death becomes an almost mundane occurrence, a grim release from the relentless suffering, whether from disease, malnutrition, the sheer physical pressure of bodies, or perhaps even despair. Life here is incredibly fragile. The line between clinging to existence and succumbing to the overwhelming odds is crossed daily, often silently, unnoticed in the vast, struggling mass of humanity. Gitarama Prison, therefore, is more than just a place of incarceration. It is a symbol of a nation grappling with its past, a physical manifestation of the immense challenges of post-conflict justice. It stands as a horrifying example of what can happen when the apparatus of the state is overwhelmed by the scale of human tragedy. The suffering within its walls is a direct consequence of the suffering that tore Rwanda apart, a brutal echo chamber where the cries of the past are amplified by the desperation of the present, a stark lesson for all humanity. Our journey now takes us to Southeast Asia, to Thailand, and to a prison whose very nickname evokes a chilling irony, Bang Kwang Central Prison, often referred to with grim sarcasm as the Bangkok Hilton. This is no luxurious sanctuary. Rather, it is a place renowned for its harsh discipline and its particularly unforgiving welcome for those convicted within its jurisdiction, especially foreign nationals caught in the unforgiving gears of Thai law. The reputation of Bang Kwang precedes it, casting a long, dark shadow over those who are destined to enter its gates. A defining feature of life, or rather of protracted existence within Bang Kwang, is the immediate and enduring imposition of heavy leg irons. These are not temporary restraints, but permanent fixtures for many, particularly those on death row or serving long sentences for serious crimes such as drug smuggling. Imagine the cold, unyielding weight of these shackles, a constant metallic presence, an unwelcome companion that restricts every movement, every step, transforming the simplest of actions into a laborious effort. They are a physical manifestation of lost freedom, a daily, inescapable reminder of captivity. The case of individuals like British citizen Sandra Gregory, who, as the brief notes, endured years dragging 8-pound shackles, illuminates the profound and lasting impact of this practice. The sheer physical burden, day after day, week after week, year after year, would lead to chafing, sores, and chronic pain. Beyond the physical, the psychological weight is immense. The clinking of chains becomes the soundtrack to one's life, a rhythm of despair that grinds away at the spirit, a constant, heavy anchor pulling one deeper into the abyss of hopelessness. These leg irons are more than mere instruments of restraint. They are potent symbols of the prison's power and the inmate's subjugation. They serve to break the will, to instill a sense of utter powerlessness in the face of an unyielding system. Each clank and scrape against the concrete floor is a reminder of the life left behind, of the years stretching ahead under their oppressive weight. For many, particularly foreigners far from home and cultural understanding, this iron embrace is the first and most lasting impression of the Bangkok Hilton's grim hospitality. Bangkwang carries another more ominous nickname, the Big Tiger. This is not a term of endearment, but a chilling metaphor for an institution that is said to consume those who enter its domain, to eat men alive. It speaks to a primal fear, the sense of being trapped in the lair of a formidable predator, where survival is a constant struggle and the chances of emerging unscathed are slim. The very name evokes an atmosphere of pervasive threat, where every shadow might conceal danger, and every day is a battle against being devoured by the system. What does it mean for a prison to eat men alive? It refers to the slow, inexorable erosion of the self, the grinding down of body, mind, and spirit under the relentless pressure of harsh conditions, severe discipline, and the ever-present specter of violence or disease. Hope, a vital nutrient for the human soul, is a scarce commodity within these walls, systematically starved by the bleakness of the environment and the seemingly endless nature of sentences. The Big Tiger's consumption is not always swift, but rather a gradual, agonizing process of attrition. For foreign nationals, the experience within Bangkwang can be particularly harrowing. Isolated by language barriers, cultural differences, and often a lack of local support systems, they find themselves exceptionally vulnerable. The intricacies of the Thai legal and penal systems can be bewildering, and the sense of abandonment profound. They are strangers in a strange and hostile land, caught within the jaws of a system that can feel alien and unforgiving, their pleas for help often lost in translation or indifference, heightening their sense of isolation. Ultimately, Bangkwang, the Big Tiger, stands as a stark embodiment of retributive justice, a place where the primary aim often appears to be punishment rather than rehabilitation. It is a grim reminder that behind the facade of tourist destinations and cultural allure, there can exist places of profound human suffering, where the fight for basic dignity is a daily imperative. The echoes from within its walls tell a story of endurance, of despair, and of the immense toll exacted upon those caught within its formidable consuming grasp, a true test of the human will to survive. Here, in southeastern Turkey, stands a structure whose very name has become synonymous with a chilling brand of institutionalized suffering, Diyarbakir Prison. It is a place where the weight of political history presses heavily upon its modern stones, a fortress designed not merely to confine the body, but to systematically attempt the subjugation of the human spirit. For decades, its reputation has spread far beyond the borders of Turkey, carried on the hushed, fearful testimonies of those who have endured its harsh realities. Within these walls, the machinery of state security operates with a chilling efficiency. targeting those whose voices dare to challenge the prevailing narrative, a stark testament to power's intolerance of dissent. The air within Diyarbakir seems thick with a silent, pervasive dread, an atmosphere meticulously cultivated to break the will of its inhabitants. It is a world unto itself, governed by rules both written and unwritten, where the primary currency is often fear, and hope a commodity in desperately short supply. The corridors echo not with the sounds of rehabilitation, but with the chilling undercurrent of control and coercion. For those designated as political dissidents, particularly individuals from the Kurdish community advocating for cultural and political recognition, this institution represents a brutal endpoint to their activism, a place where their ideals are met with the unyielding force of state power, a grim reminder of the cost of defiance. The primary occupants of Diyarbakir's most notorious sections are indeed often Kurdish activists, journalists, intellectuals, and ordinary citizens swept up in the broad nets cast by security operations. Their alleged crimes frequently revolve around expressions of identity, calls for greater autonomy, or criticisms of governmental policies, actions deemed subversive by the authorities. Inside, they face a system that seems engineered to strip away not only their freedom, but also their dignity. The psychological pressure is immense, a constant grinding force designed to erode resilience and compel conformity. This relentless targeting transforms the prison into a focal point of a much larger ongoing struggle for rights and recognition. The methods employed within Diyarbakir are spoken of with a mixture of terror and outrage by human rights organizations across the globe. These are not tales of mere hardship, but of calculated cruelty, of techniques refined to inflict maximum suffering while leaving minimal visible evidence, or sometimes with a brutal disregard for any such subtleties. The intent, it appears, is not simply to punish, but to send an unequivocal message to others who might contemplate challenging the state's authority. The very architecture of the prison, with its oppressive design and isolated cells, contributes to this atmosphere, creating an environment where the individual is dwarfed by the seemingly omnipotent power of their captors. Among the litany of abuses reported from within Diyarbakir's walls, one technique stands out for its particular cruelty and its chilling name, the Palestinian hanging. This abhorrent practice involves victims being suspended by their wrists, which are tied behind their backs for prolonged periods, sometimes lasting for days on end. The agony is almost unimaginable, as the full weight of the body pulls on the shoulder joints, dislocating them, tearing ligaments, and causing excruciating, unrelenting pain. It is a method designed to induce a state of utter helplessness and to break even the most stoic resistance, a barbaric relic of darker ages, yet reportedly a tool still used in this modern-day fortress. Beyond such specific named tortures, the general conditions within Diyarbakir contribute significantly to its brutal reputation. Overcrowding is often rampant, forcing inmates into squalid, cramped spaces where disease can spread with terrifying speed. Access to adequate medical care is frequently described as insufficient or deliberately withheld, turning minor ailments into life-threatening conditions. The psychological torment is compounded by isolation, by the constant threat of violence from guards or other inmates, and by the profound uncertainty of one's fate. This relentless assault on both body and mind creates an environment where survival itself becomes a daily, arduous struggle against overwhelming odds. The Turkish government has often dismissed such allegations, framing the harsh measures employed at Diyarbakir and similar facilities as necessary security protocols in its fight against terrorism and threats to national unity. This official narrative stands in stark, irreconcilable contrast to the findings of numerous international bodies, including the United Nations and various human rights groups, which have repeatedly condemned the practices as constituting torture and cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment. This chasm between official justification and international condemnation highlights the profound ethical and legal questions surrounding the prison's operations and the broader context of human rights within the nation. The legacy of Diyarbakir is etched into the collective memory of those who have passed through its gates and into the annals of human rights advocacy. The physical scars may eventually fade, but the psychological wounds, the trauma of enduring such systematic brutality, can linger for a lifetime, a haunting reminder of humanity's capacity for cruelty. For the wider world, Diyarbakir serves as a potent symbol of the extreme measures states can resort to in the suppression of dissent, and a stark reminder of the ongoing, vital importance of vigilance in the global fight against torture and the protection of fundamental human freedoms, no matter where they are threatened. In the very heart of Paris, a city celebrated globally for its enlightenment, its culture, and its romantic allure, stands La Sainte Prison. Its name, ironically translating to health, belies a far grimmer reality that festers within its imposing 19th-century walls. This institution serves as a stark, uncomfortable reminder that even in nations considered beacons of civilization and human rights, dark corners can exist where the ideals of justice and humane treatment falter. La Sante's presence in the sophisticated 14th arrondissement creates a jarring juxtaposition. A hidden world of deprivation and danger existing just meters away from the vibrant Parisian life, a paradox that many would prefer to ignore. Within the confines of La Sante, a disturbing and unofficial hierarchy often takes root, one where the authority of the state is challenged and in some wings effectively usurped by powerful gang leaders. These individuals, often incarcerated for serious organized crimes, manage to replicate their street-level dominance within the prison environment, controlling illicit trades, extorting weaker inmates, and dictating the terms of daily existence for many. This internal power structure creates a perilous landscape for those not affiliated with these dominant groups, transforming cell blocks into veritable fiefdoms, where the rule of the strong prevails over the rule of law, a microcosm of a lawless society. The persistence of such inmate-led control is frequently attributed to guards who, for a variety of complex reasons, may turn a blind eye to these illicit activities. It could be a consequence of chronic understaffing, leaving correctional officers outnumbered and overwhelmed. It might stem from fear of reprisal from powerful and violent inmates, or in some instances, it could be indicative of corruption, where complacency is bought or coerced. Whatever the underlying causes, this abdication of complete control by the official authorities allows a shadow system of governance to flourish, one that operates on intimidation and violence, undermining any pretense of orderly rehabilitation. For the average inmate, particularly one lacking connections or the physical prowess to defend themselves, navigating this treacherous environment is a daily ordeal fraught with peril. The constant threat of violence, the pressure to align with one faction or another, and the pervasive sense of insecurity make survival a relentless challenge. Basic amenities might become bargaining chips, personal safety a commodity to be negotiated. This reality is far removed from the rehabilitative ideals that modern penal systems purportedly aspire to, instead fostering an atmosphere where despair can take root and flourish, far from the public gaze and the romanticized image of the City of Lights. Perhaps the most damning indictment of the conditions within La Sante is its alarmingly high suicide rate, reported to be as much as triple France's national average. This stark statistic speaks volumes about the profound levels of despair and hopelessness that permeate its cell blocks. When individuals who are, by definition, under the state's constant supervision, are driven to take their own lives at such disproportionate rates, it signals a catastrophic failure within the system. It suggests an environment so oppressive, so devoid of hope or prospects for a dignified existence, that death becomes, for some, a preferable alternative to continued incarceration under such conditions. The factors contributing to this pervasive despair are multifaceted and deeply ingrained in the prison's culture. The ever-present threat of inter-inmate violence, often gang-related, creates an atmosphere of constant fear and anxiety. The overcrowding, the squalor reported in some sections, The lack of meaningful activity or engagement, and the feeling of being forgotten or abandoned by the outside world all contribute to a crushing psychological burden. When combined with the loss of liberty and the stigma of imprisonment, these conditions can create a perfect storm for severe mental health deterioration, pushing vulnerable individuals towards the brink of utter desolation. There is a profound and tragic irony in a prison named La Santé Health, being a place so detrimental to the mental and indeed physical well-being of its inmates. The name itself seems to mock the very suffering that occurs within its walls. Instead of fostering an environment where individuals might find a path towards rehabilitation or at least maintain their basic human dignity, it appears for many to be a catalyst for further decline. The high suicide rate is a grim testament to the institution's failure to provide even the most fundamental aspect of care, the preservation of life and the safeguarding of mental health. La Santé, therefore, stands as a troubling emblem. It demonstrates that the challenges of humane incarceration are not confined to less developed nations or overtly authoritarian regimes. Even within the framework of a sophisticated European democracy, the complexities of managing a prison population, coupled with issues of under-resourcing, internal corruption, or systemic neglect, can lead to environments where profound human suffering becomes endemic. It serves as a sobering lesson that vigilance and reform are perpetual necessities if penal institutions are to be more than mere warehouses of human misery hidden away from society's view. Deep within the secretive, isolated state of North Korea, there exists a network of political prison camps, or that represent some of the most extreme forms of human rights abuses on our planet. Among these, Camp 14, also known as Kachon Internment Camp, has gained a particular notoriety, largely through the harrowing testimony of the few who have managed to escape its clutches. The operational philosophy of such camps is chillingly simple, often summarized by three stark imperatives: work, starve, die. These are not places of rehabilitation or even conventional punishment as understood elsewhere. They are, in essence, instruments of slow, deliberate extermination. One of the most horrifying aspects of the North Korean Gulag system is the principle of generational punishment, or 3 generations of punishment. This dictates that if one individual is deemed an enemy of the state, not only are they incarcerated, but their entire immediate family, parents, spouse, children, can also be imprisoned alongside them, often for life. Grandchildren born within the camps inherit this sentence, condemned from birth to a life of brutal slave labor, chronic malnutrition, and relentless indoctrination for a crime they did not commit, nor their parents perhaps. This practice ensures a perpetual supply of prisoners and aims to eradicate any lineage deemed politically tainted. The landscape of Camp 14, and others like it, is one of unremitting toil and deprivation. Spread over vast areas, these are not merely prisons, but sprawling complexes of mines, farms, and factories, all powered by the forced labor of their emaciated inmates. Prisoners are compelled to work incredibly long hours, often more than 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, under the harshest conditions, with rudimentary tools and minimal safety precautions. The food rations provided are systematically insufficient to sustain life, leading to chronic severe malnutrition, widespread disease, and a horrifyingly high death rate from starvation, exhaustion, or work-related accidents, all under the brutal watch of merciless guards. Within this horrific ecosystem, normal human bonds are systematically eroded and often perverted. The fight for survival becomes paramount, pitting inmate against inmate and sometimes even family member against family member. Trust is a dangerous liability, and compassion a forgotten luxury. The guards cultivate an atmosphere of constant surveillance and mutual suspicion, encouraging informants and rewarding betrayal with meager scraps of extra food or slightly less arduous work. This psychological warfare is as devastating as the physical abuse, designed to strip away every vestige of humanity and reduce individuals to their most basic, desperate instincts, a society engineered for absolute control. The story of Shin Dong-hyuk provides a rare, terrifying, and profoundly disturbing window into the abyss of Camp 14. He is one of the very few individuals known to have been born within such a camp and to have subsequently escaped to tell the tale. His early life knew no other reality. The camp was his entire world, its brutal rules the only laws he understood. He was taught that prisoners were subhuman, deserving of their fate, and that loyalty to the guards, even at the expense of his own family, was essential for survival. His testimony paints a picture of an existence almost beyond comprehension for those who have known freedom. One of the most chilling episodes in Shin Dong-hyuk's account involves the public execution of his own mother and brother. He witnessed this horrific event, not with the grief or outrage one might expect, but with a conditioned indifference, even a sense of their deservingness, as they had allegedly planned an escape, the ultimate crime in the camp's twisted moral code. This detachment, horrifically, was a product of his upbringing, a testament to the camp's success in dehumanizing its inhabitants and severing the most fundamental human connections. The emotional landscape of a child raised in such an environment is a barren, brutalized terrain. Even more disturbingly, Shin has recounted how he was the one who reported their supposed escape plan to a guard. His motivation, as he later understood it, was driven by the camp's indoctrination and the desperate hope for a reward, perhaps an extra portion of food, a fleeting reprieve from the constant gnawing hunger that defined his existence. This act, which would be unthinkable in any normal human context, starkly illustrates the perversion of values within Camp 14, where the instinct for self-preservation was manipulated to override familial loyalty and basic morality. His reward did indeed come in the form of slightly better rations, a grim exchange for betrayal. The escape of Shin Dong-hyuk from this earthly hell was an act of almost unimaginable courage and desperation. Yet physical freedom was only the beginning of an arduous journey. The psychological scars, the ingrained trauma, and the struggle to adapt to a world with concepts like love, trust, and choice are burdens he will carry for life. His story and the continued existence of camps like Camp 14 serve as a horrifying testament to the depths of cruelty one part of humanity can inflict upon another, and a stark, urgent call for awareness and action against such atrocities hidden from the world's gaze. Here, in the heart of La Paz, Bolivia, stands a structure that defies our conventional understanding of a penal institution: San Pedro Prison. It is not merely a collection of cells and corridors, but a sprawling, self-contained world, a veritable city teeming with life, albeit a life lived within the shadow of confinement. From the outside, its weathered walls might hint at the grim purpose it serves, yet they conceal an internal ecosystem so complex, so bizarrely ordered, that it resembles a society in miniature. Within these confines, the usual strictures of prison life appear to have eroded, replaced by a startling, almost unbelievable degree of autonomy for those who dwell here, a microcosm of urban existence flourishing against all odds. The very notion of a prison cell, typically a stark, uniform space allocated by authorities, is here transformed. In San Pedro, inmates, or rather residents, must purchase their own accommodation. A peculiar real estate market thrives within these walls, with cells ranging from squalid, cramped hovels to comparatively luxurious apartments, complete with private bathrooms and even kitchenettes. The price naturally dictates the level of comfort, creating a stark hierarchy based on economic power rather than the nature of one's crime. This marketplace for living space is the first striking indication that San Pedro operates under its own unique and often unforgiving set of rules, a far cry from any state-controlled penitentiary. Beyond the acquisition of living quarters, a rudimentary economy pulsates through San Pedro's crowded alleyways and courtyards. Inmates operate a surprising array of businesses: small shops selling groceries, makeshift restaurants offering hot meals, barbershops, and even repair services. This internal commerce provides not only goods and services but also a means of income, allowing some to improve their living conditions or support families who, astonishingly, may live alongside them. It is a testament to human adaptability, this drive to create normalcy and enterprise even in the most abnormal of environments, a bustling marketplace powered by desperation and ingenuity in equal measure. Perhaps most astonishing of all is the presence of families within San Pedro's walls. Wives and children of the incarcerated live here, creating a semblance of domestic life amidst the chaos and inherent dangers. Children's laughter can, at times, echo through corridors usually associated with despair, their playgrounds the crowded plazas of this prison city. This extraordinary situation presents a profound paradox, the attempt to maintain family bonds in a place predicated on separation and punishment. It is a fragile existence, constantly overshadowed by the grim realities of their surroundings, a domestic sphere carved out from the very heart of incarceration itself. However, this veneer of a functioning, almost autonomous society within San Pedro conceals a far harsher truth, a predatory undercurrent that defines the daily struggle for survival. True power here does not reside with any formal authority, but with inmate-led councils and, more insidiously, with powerful gangs who enforce their own brutal code. These groups control the flow of resources, the allocation of desirable cells, and the very safety of those less influential. The apparent freedom is, for many, an illusion masking a system where vulnerability is swiftly and ruthlessly exploited, and where the weak are perpetually at the mercy of the strong in this unforgiving habitat. For new arrivals, the introduction to San Pedro's unique ecosystem is often a brutal one. The concept of rent is paramount. Cells are not merely bought but are subject to ongoing payments to the controlling factions. Failure to meet these financial obligations carries severe consequences, ranging from eviction to less desirable, often perilous sections of the prison, to physical violence. This constant economic pressure creates an atmosphere of pervasive anxiety, where every inmate must find a way to generate income legally or otherwise, simply to secure their continued existence within this peculiar hierarchy, a relentless struggle for territory and resources. And for those utterly destitute, unable to buy their cell or pay the relentless rent, a truly horrifying choice may be presented. Whispers circulate of a grim trade, a desperate transaction where the currency is not money, but a part of oneself, the donation, or rather the forced extraction, of a kidney. This chilling rumor underscores the depths of exploitation that can flourish when societal norms collapse and the value of human life is determined by the ability to pay. It is a stark reminder that beneath the bustling markets and family life, a primal law of survival dictates the fates of the most vulnerable souls trapped within. Thus, the apparent autonomy of San Pedro, its bustling markets and family quarters, is built upon a precarious and often brutal foundation. It is a society where the rules are fluid, dictated by power and wealth, and where the cost of living can be impossibly high. This city within a city is less a testament to inmate freedom and more a stark illustration of what happens when traditional structures of control disintegrate, replaced by a raw, often cruel, social order. It is a complex, troubling ecosystem, a world unto itself where the price of existence is constantly being negotiated, often in the currency of fear and desperation. Our journey now takes us to the shores of Equatorial Guinea, to a place whose name, Black Beach, evokes a sinister, almost elemental dread. This is not a prison defined by towering walls or sprawling complexes bristling with advanced technology. Instead, its horror lies in its brutal simplicity, its chilling intimacy with the natural world, and the insidious cruelty of its design. From a distance it might appear as just another coastal structure, unassuming and unremarkable, but beneath its surface, hidden from the world's gaze, lies a mechanism of torture and death so profound it chills the very soul, a place where humanity is systematically erased. The true terror of Black Beach resides in its subterranean cells, chambers dug deep into the earth, often below sea level. These are not mere holding pens but instruments of calculated suffering. Their construction is rudimentary, yet their purpose is chillingly effective. Here, prisoners, often political dissidents deemed enemies of the state, are confined in perpetual darkness, dampness, and isolation. The very earth around them becomes an accomplice to their torment, a constant, oppressive presence that seeks to crush both body and spirit, long before the final act of this horrifying play unfolds. The defining feature of these infernal cells, the one that elevates Black Beach to a unique echelon of brutality, is its horrifying synchronicity with the ocean's rhythm. At high tide, seawater, often mixed with raw sewage from the prison above, floods these underground pits. Inch by agonizing inch, the foul liquid rises, engulfing the condemned. There is no escape, only the slow, inexorable advance of the suffocating tide. This daily or bi-daily ritual transforms a natural phenomenon into a grotesque method of execution, a drawn-out drowning in filth and despair, a truly diabolical manipulation of the environment. Imagine the psychological torment, the sheer, unadulterated horror of knowing that with each incoming tide, your world will shrink, the air will grow heavy, and the rising waters will threaten to consume you. This is not a swift end, but a protracted agony, a relentless assault on every human instinct for survival. The prisoners of Black Beach are not merely incarcerated, they are subjected to a recurring nightmare, a slow-motion drowning that plays out in the darkness, their cries unheard, their suffering unseen by the outside world, a terrifying dance with death orchestrated by the very tides that shape our planet. The unfortunate souls who find themselves consigned to the watery tombs of Black Beach are seldom common criminals. Overwhelmingly, they are individuals who have dared to question, to speak out, to oppose the autocratic regime that governs Equatorial Guinea. Journalists, activists, political rivals, anyone perceived as a threat to the established order can simply vanish into the depths of this notorious prison. Their crime, in essence, is the exercise of free thought, the audacity to dream of a different future, a transgression punishable by the most unspeakable means in this dark corner of the world. Black Beach serves as a brutally effective instrument of state terror, a cornerstone of a dictatorial system that tolerates no dissent. Its very existence, shrouded in secrecy yet whispered about in fear, acts as a chilling deterrent to any potential opposition. The message is clear and unequivocal. Challenge the authority of the dictator, and you risk not just imprisonment, but obliteration, a disappearance into a place from which there is no return, no record, no grave. The prison functions as a black hole, swallowing those who dare to shine a light on the regime's abuses, ensuring their voices are permanently silenced. Within the machinery of this oppressive state, due process and the rule of law are alien concepts for those destined for Black Beach. There are no fair trials, no access to legal counsel, no appeals. Individuals are often abducted, their whereabouts unknown to their families, their fate sealed in clandestine decisions. They become the disappeared, their names erased from public record, their existence reduced to a rumor, a cautionary tale. This arbitrary and absolute power to condemn is a hallmark of the tyranny that Black Beach so grimly represents, a stark negation of fundamental human rights. Ultimately, Black Beach stands as a horrifying testament to the lengths to which a regime will go to maintain its grip on power. It is a place where the natural environment itself is weaponized, where the tide becomes an executioner, and where the fundamental value of human life is utterly disregarded. The watery tombs of Black Beach are not just cells, they are a symbol of absolute despotism, a final, terrifying destination for those whose only crime was to question, their stories drowned alongside them in the rising filth, a chilling echo of state-sponsored terror. We have journeyed through corridors of despair, from the high-tech isolation of America's ADX Florence, where the silence itself becomes a torment, to the brutal generational punishment of North Korea's Camp 14, where survival is a near impossibility. We have witnessed the bizarre, lawless society of San Pedro in Bolivia, a city thriving on its own perverse rules, and descended into the watery, sewage-filled tombs of Equatorial Guinea's Black Beach, where the very elements conspire against life. Through these diverse landscapes of human suffering, one stark, unavoidable truth remains. These institutions, these prisons, are profound reflections of a society's deepest and often darkest values and fears. What do these varying architectures of brutality truly tell us about ourselves, about the civilizations that construct and maintain them? Whether through calculated sensory deprivation, forced labor unto death, the chaotic neglect that breeds internal predatory systems, or the direct elemental cruelty of a tidal execution, common threads emerge. The dehumanization of the incarcerated, the pervasive fear that drives such extreme measures of control, and the societal willingness to look away, or indeed to endorse such conditions in the name of security or retribution. These places expose the fragile boundaries of our own compassion when confronted with those we deem other. The spectrum of inhumanity we have observed is vast, each system uniquely horrifying in its methods and philosophy. From the sterile, psychological warfare waged in Supermax facilities to the primal struggle for existence in overcrowded, resource-starved hellholes, the capacity for cruelty takes on many forms. Which of these systems, these calculated descents into suffering, resonated most deeply with your own understanding of justice or injustice? Which particular vision of confinement struck you as the most profound betrayal of human dignity? The answers may vary, but the questions themselves demand our continued contemplation. If this exploration into the world's most brutal prisons has stirred within you a belief that justice should aspire to more than mere retribution, that its aim should encompass rehabilitation, restoration, and the unwavering preservation of human dignity even in the face of transgression, then we invite you to continue this journey of discovery. Consider what purpose these institutions truly serve and what alternatives might exist, for it is only by shining a light into these darkest corners, by understanding the depths of these reflections, that we can hope to foster a world where torture is never an acceptable answer, and where justice seeks to heal rather than simply to break.